Hey everyone, what's going on? Steve Ushler here. I am one half of the Locked In podcast on the Locked In Podcast Network. I want to thank you for tuning into this video. One of the biggest things that we cover on our YouTube channel is sports, along with personal development. And we are a podcast based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So we are mainly 4 for 4 Philly guys. It comes from baseball, hockey, basketball, and the big one, football. So as you know, if you've tuned into our channel, we talk Philadelphia Eagles here. But if you are coming to the channel for the first time, I do welcome you in. As I stated, personal development and sports are two big things on this channel, and we have a podcast that goes live every single week. Today, I want to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. We are headed into the 2023 season, and I want to break down the 53-man roster. It's been officially released last week. I want to dive into the strengths and weaknesses that I believe are on the roster this year, because as stout as this team is, I think there are some weaknesses that we could address. But it is a very strong roster on a general level. I do want to dive into it and then maybe get into some potential trade rumors. Not quite sure if they're going to happen. Obviously, the trade deadline is still a ways away. Season hasn't begun yet. It opens up this upcoming Sunday. But I want to talk about two key possible trades. So stay tuned to the end of the video if you want to hear about that. All right, guys. So the 53-man roster has been released. As I said, we'll dive right into that. But yeah, welcome to the Locked In Podcast channel. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll hop right into it. All right, guys. So as I stated, today we're going to be breaking down the 53-man roster, and we're going to talk some trade rumors for the Philadelphia Eagles. So let's just get into it. I don't want to hold up too long. So the 53-man roster, we'll start with the quarterback position here. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is the QB1 for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I honestly think the strength, the one of the biggest strengths on this Eagles roster is the quarterback team. So Marcus Mariota didn't look great in preseason. He's the backup to Jalen Hurts. He's obviously QB2, and he didn't look great, but I think that the Eagles are going to be just fine. They're with him. Obviously, we don't really want to see Mariota play until unless we have a bye already kind of clinched and, we're resting our starters week 18, against the Giants. I don't want to see Marcus Mariota anyway. You know what I mean? So, but I think he is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I think they're paying him $7 million for this year. And Tanner McKee, honestly, he won a roster spot too. He's QB3. He had a pretty solid preseason, so it kind of gave him the role of QB3. Overall, Jalen Hurts, if it wasn't for the Eagles losing the Super Bowl last year, probably would have. I don't even think it's a probably. He would have been the Super Bowl MVP. Fantastic year last year. He only made one mistake the entire playoffs last year, and it was a fumble. It honestly could have costed us the Super Bowl. It might be the biggest reason why we lost the Super Bowl, but strong quarterback room. Going to the running back room, it's a running back by committee this year. We've got Kenneth Gainwell, Rashad Penny, Boston Scott, DeAndre Swift. Gainwell led the team in rushing yards in the playoffs last year. DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, two new spots to the team. Obviously, Swift is an explosive runner, particularly outside the tackles, whereas Penny's more of a downhill runner. Injuries have plagued these guys in the past. I'm curious to see what they can do with a full year, hopefully good health behind them. And then Boston Scott, he's good in the red zone, giant killer, if you will. He's one of the ones who, he's always has great games against the New York Giants. So I think it's honestly a strength. It's just running back by committee. We're kind of going by committee this year, as we did the Super Bowl year in 2017 to 18, versus, relying mainly on one running back, which is what we did last year with Miles Sanders. So Sanders on his way out, it's more of a running back by committee. But again, very strong, position on the team with the running back. Wide receivers, we got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and alumni Zacchaeus, I think is how you pronounce it. Anyway, again, wide receiver group, strong, very strong. Arguably the best wide receiving group in the entire NFL. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are obviously the cream of the crop here. Smith had set a record last year with 95 receptions for the team, and A.J. Brown has set a single franchise record for the season with 1,496 receiving yards last year. Both are studs. I'm looking forward to a solid outing this year for them. The one I will highlight here is Quez Watkins. Although we were excited to see him have a strong summer and a strong camp. He looked somewhat limited last year. He holding on to the football was a problem for him. He obviously has speed, but he needs to do a better job of holding on the football. Overall, though, really strong position for the Philadelphia Eagles. And we dive into the tight end. We got Grant Calcaterra, obviously Dallas Goedert, Albert Ogwing, and Akobe, and then Jack Stoll. So, Stoll is third season here. He seems like he's taking a step forward this summer. Obviously, Dallas Goedert's a stud. I'd say he's a top 5 tight end in the league. And Grant Calcaterra is, as athleticism, he's a pretty good route runner. Again, this is a strong position on the team. Dallas Goedert alone is arguably one of the best tight ends in the league. So, again, we're just continuing to stay strong. Offensive line, again, I honestly think this is the best offensive line in football. I think they came ranked into the season as the Eagles are the number 1 ranked offensive line when healthy. You have Landon Dickerson, Jack Driscoll, Fred Johnson, Lane Johnson, Cam Jurgens, Jason Kelsey, Jordan Mailata, Sua Opeta, and Tyler Steen. The 5 starters, obviously, Mailata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Jurgens, and Johnson. And that is just a stud offensive lineman up front. It's just a stud offensive lineman. Offensive line. Jack Driscoll's in his 4th season here, and curious to see. He's looked good overall in the back. Tyler Steen's has been on the field in the summer, both right guard and left tackle. And Fred Johnson just signed a 2-year contract, I think 2 weeks ago. Sua Opeta is the primary backup at left guard throughout the summer, and he's battling his way back to the active roster after being on the practice squad. So that's a comeback story I like to see. But this offensive line is absolutely ridiculous, led by Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. Them 3 alone, and then you add Dickerson and Jurgens in there. And this is a very, very strong offensive line. So now we're going to jump to the defensive side. So just quick breakdown from the offense. Very strong offensive side. Depth is a little bit of a question mark, but outside of depth, fully healthy. This offense is absolutely explosive, and I'm excited to see what they do this year. Edge rusher. So now we're going to go to the defensive side. Edge rushers. You have Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Patrick Johnson, Hassan Reddick, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat. Again, this is an absolutely ferocious defensive line in total. We're going to break down the edge rushers and then the inside. But even on the edge rusher side, Hassan Reddick last year, 16 sacks. Brandon Graham had 10. Fletcher, so if we'll get to Fletch when we get to the inside, but 10 for him. And then Josh Sweat had 10. So 3 of those edge rushers had 10 plus sacks last year. You're adding Nolan Smith from the draft. Derek Barnett's back. I'm not the biggest Derek Barnett fan, but he still adds something that we didn't have last year. This is a ferocious defensive line. Again, I think this came into the year ranking number 1 on the defensive line too. So you have a number 1 ranked offensive line and defensive line. Absolutely strong. This is going to be ferocious. So now you get to the defensive tackle spot, the DT spot. It's where you add Jalen Carter, arguably the cream of the crop of the draft, if you didn't have the off the field stuff. And obviously quarterback is one of the positions that goes pretty early in the draft. But I honestly think, personal, all bias aside, I wanted Jalen Carter, and I think he is the cream of the crop of the 2023 draft. I think the Eagles got the best pick in the draft. Yeah, Jalen Carter, you add him with Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis. Another Georgia Bulldog, coming up there with Jalen Carter. You got Milton Williams. You got Kentavious Street, Mora Ojomo. This is again the DT spot. Fletcher Cox had 10 sacks last year. And then on top of it, now you're adding, Jalen Carter to this mix. It's going to be a lethal defensive line, defensive front, just in general, with the edge rushers and defensive tackles. It's a strong position, and I haven't really seen much weaknesses until you get to the next spot, which is the linebacker. So the Eagles, it's no secret the Eagles don't value the linebacker position too much, and they never have. It's at least in recent last decade, the Eagles haven't valued this position. So the Eagles' three linebackers are Zach Cunningham, Nakobe Dean, and Christian Ellis. Nakobe Dean is going to wear the green dot on the field for defensive coordinator Sean Desai, first-year defensive coordinator. He essentially is going to be in command of the defense. I like that. It seems like he's been very comfortable in control of the scheme from people that have been insiders that have seen the team over the summer. He seems pretty comfortable, so I'm excited to see that, and I'm a Nakobe Dean fan. Zach Cunningham was added to the roster in training. Cunningham has great instincts. The only thing that's plagued him in the past is, injuries. Injuries are what have plagued Zach Cunningham in the past. So, hopefully he can stay healthy. I like the pickup. And then Christian Ellis, he's made his mark on special teams last year. He took his game to another level this summer. So his athleticism and ability to fly around the field has kind of moved him to that linebacker position. So I'm excited to see that. I like Christian Ellis. I'm curious to see what he can do. It still is I would say it's mediocre. It's a mediocre position on the team, and and you can't have strengths everywhere. This is a position that I'd be a little bit concerned about. It's the middle of the field. I like Nakobe Dean, but again, he's running the defense. The Eagles did sign Miles Jack, but he retired, unfortunately, like a week or two later. It would have changed, in my opinion, maybe a little bit, but I still, even with Miles Jack, it's a little shaky because he's a little older. Yeah, it's a question mark for sure. But I don't think it's too worrisome. It's not a terrible position, but it's the first question mark that I would have is the linebacker position. So I don't want to say strong. I would say mediocre. I'll say neutral. It's not super weak, but it's mediocre, and they have to prove something. The cornerback position now. Now you bring in James Bradbury back, Mario Goodrich, Josh Joby, Avante Maddox, Kaylee Ringo, Eli Ricks, and Darius Slay. So you got Darius Slay, big play Slay back. You got James Bradbury, who was a second team All-Pro a year ago. These are two stud corners. The Super Bowl, the scheme was terrible. I think Jonathan Gannon a little bit to do with that, but two touchdowns were allowed by Mahomes like late, but I think it was like double move. But my whole thing with this is these are two stud proven cornerbacks that have been able to come back to that team. I didn't think they were going to be able to get both of them back, but they did. And then Avante Maddox at the cornerback spot. He's fast. He's got agility. Josh Joby made a significant leap from last year. Ringo was a 4th-round pick who plays on the ball in both training camp, and he played in preseason as well. Eli Ricks, pick 6 Ricks, he lived up to it with a pick in the preseason. It was a pick 6 against the Ravens. This is a solid, sound quarterback group. So I'm going to say this is the strength of the team. It's strength. It's strong. It's a strong position. So now you get to my second question mark here, and it's the safety position. They lost CJ last year, CJ Garner-Johnson. Your safeties are Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown, who they drafted, Terrell Edmonds, and Justin Evans. Reed Blankenship, I think, is the stud here. I wouldn't say he's an absolute stud, but he has played very hard, and he's been a standout player from day one. He earned a spot on this team last year when he was able to fill in for CJGJ towards the end of the season when he had the injury. So I'm excited to see what he does. Sidney Brown, champion inside the Nova. He was Sidney Brown. Honestly, is explosive as well. I'm excited to see what he does. Justin Evans is an inspirational comeback story. This is a spot though that I have a question mark. It's maybe mediocre, potentially weak. I think this could potentially be a weakness in the middle of the field. Not being able to get CJ Garner-Johnson back was a huge blow. But because of that, I think that's why we were able to keep Bradbury and Slay. Had we kept CJ Gardner-Johnson, I'm not quite sure that we would have both of them. I think that's why I was shocked we brought back both of them, but because I thought we were going to be getting CJ Gardner-Johnson back. So he's obviously hurt in Detroit right now, but yeah, this is a potentially weak position. Now, I hope they prove me wrong. I hope this safety position is strong, but it does pose questions. We move to our special teams now, and this is the end of it. Jake Elliott and Rick Lovato. Rick Lovato's obviously, he's one of the most, you don't really hear his name as much, but he's one of the league's most consistent long snappers. And Jake Elliott's gotten plenty of legwork this summer. He's been with the team since 2017, and he's been very consistent. He's been one of the most consistent kickers that I've had the pleasure of watching the Eagles have over the years. Obviously, David Akers in the early 2000s, but I'm excited there. Not too much to talk about, but that is the 53-man roster. So I think the majority of the roster is strong. The only two question marks I have are the linebacker and safety positions, more so the safety position. I don't think there's like a bona fide number one, not like a stud safety back there. So I'm curious to see what Reed Blankenship can be. But we'll see. That's my thoughts there. Now I just want to get into the potential talks with two players that, have been circulating. This is a rumor. The media likes to spread a lot of noise out there. And there's a lot of Eagles hate, honestly, surrounding the team. But, before we even get into the two players, you're seeing a lot of doubters out there right now. They're doubting that the Eagles can get back to where they were last year, maybe because of the toughness of the schedule. If you guys want to check that out, we have a previous video from a couple of weeks ago. We broke down the Eagles schedule and what we thought the wins and losses were going to be. Now, it's very backloaded this year. It's, the Eagles, I think, have to be pretty sound right out of the gate. They obviously have a new offensive coordinator and new defensive coordinator. So it could be a little tricky to start, but they have a fairly favorable schedule to start this season in the first 8 or 9 games. And then it's very backloaded towards after the bye week. So a lot of doubters out there. Shout out to Shady McCoy for always staying loyal to Philadelphia and always having our backs, because he's obviously always on these shows defending us. Yeah, a lot of haters, a lot of trash. Don't believe it. This team is built soundly. So if they can stay healthy, this team is going to be absolutely lethal. I confidently believe that for sure. So let's get into the rumors, the trade rumors. So right now out there, you have at the running back position, Jonathan Taylor's a rumor, and you also have at the defensive tackle position or the edge rush position, Aaron Donald. Now these are both studs in different positions. Jonathan Taylor led the league in rushing yards. I think he had 1,800, 1,900 rushing yards in 2021. Last year he took a drop off because of the fact that I think he was injured a good small portion of the year. But it was a big drop-off. I think the Colts want too much right now for him. I don't think the Eagles are going to make any type of move with him. And running backs just aren't worth number one first-round picks, and I think that's what the Colts were asking for. Their shelf life is short in the NFL. It's unfortunate. On the defensive position, Aaron Donald, it was ranked still the number one defensive line. I forget if Donald is a DT or he's an edge rusher. I think he's a defensive tackle. But he's interior, I believe. But he was ranked number one coming into this year, player wise. Even at his age, he just continues to do it. The Eagles already have an absolutely stud offensive line. Honestly, I would love to see them get Aaron Donald, though. If you get Aaron Donald, I think it's a wrap. Like, if you can stay healthy, this is going to be the most feared defensive line in the entire NFL. Like, if you weren't already as great as you are, you're like elite level now. Like, if you stay healthy, this line is just going to be absolutely ferocious. Depending, you don't have to give up too much to get them. Jonathan Taylor, but I think adds a good thing I think it makes it an interesting discussion. So we are running back by committee right now, but if you add Jonathan Taylor to the discussion, it's going to primarily go through Jonathan Taylor's hands if the Eagles were able to get him. The thing is, like I said, I don't know what the Colts want for him. Obviously, Aaron Donald, they probably want to ransom for him as well, though, in L.A. for the Rams. I'm curious to see. I don't know if they're going to get either of them. I would love to see them get Aaron Donald because I honestly just think defense, it might not be the sexy pick with the running back position. It's like a new shiny toy to add to the offense. But with the defensive side of it, I think defense wins championships, and I think Brandon Graham getting that strip sack in the Super Bowl and Tom Brady, It proved it, when the Eagles had the Super Bowl in 2018. I just think I would love to see them get Aaron Donald. I'm not going to be mad if they get Jonathan Taylor, but I just don't want them to give up too much. And I don't think Howie's going to get fleeced like that. So we'll see what happens. But I'm excited for this year, guys. 2023, the season kicks off this upcoming Sunday, September 10th. Right now, September 6th when I'm recording this video. But, guys, it's a 20-minute mark. I don't want to keep this too long. So go Birds. Shout out Philadelphia Eagles. Guys, like I said, we release podcasts every single week. There will be an Eagles-related episode tomorrow. It's going to be a podcast. Check us out. Guys, check out this entire channel. We're related to personal development and sports. If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, make sure you click that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to turn those notifications on. We release content every single week related to podcast, and you do not want to miss it. Comment down below. Your feedback is very important to us. We always want to know how we can improve, and we also want to contribute to a conversation with you. And we will get back to you always, So we're very responsible on this channel for sure. So, guys, keep checking us out for all the up-to-date sports content and personal development tips. We always have great guests on. You can also check out our links to our other platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram. You can listen to us on Spotify. We have a personal website and merchandise store. So you can check that out in our info for our YouTube channel. But with that being said, guys, have a great week and go Birds. I'm excited to get this 2023 season popping off. Take care, guys. Until next time.